Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I bid to Dr. Zamna Hussein. We, Group 2 from LG2402D, are going to present the context of individuals that have the qualities of an intellectual, which are intellectual honesty, intellectual perseverance, intellectual courage, and open-mindedness. In Group 2, we have me, myself, Nur Natasha Karima, binti Lukman, Nur Khairiyah, binti Mohd Yazid, Nur Farah Najihah, binti Muhammad Nasir, and Farihah ilyana, binti Darus. Now, I am going to start with explaining my own context of Dr. Amalina Bakri, which in my opinion possess the quality of an intellectual, which are intellectual honesty, intellectual perseverance, and open-mindedness. Dr. Amalina Bakri is a general surgeon and has a PhD in clinical research in London. Firstly, having intellectual honesty is giving information with solid proof and reason. For Dr. Amalina Bakri herself, she used TikTok as a platform to explain to people about health information such as COVID-19 vaccine, and she also breaks superficial beliefs about cucumber being the cause to vaginal discharge when it is actually normal for a woman to have that. Next, Dr. Amalina Bakri also has the quality of intellectual perseverance, in which one loves and appreciates knowledge and willing to learn in a long-term journey. For Dr. Amalina, learning doesn't really stop as she finished her studies and research in UK. She still participated in forums and webinars such as the forum organized by United Nations, which talk about gender equality in conjunction of International Women's Day, and she learned and also shared her own opinions from all 350 participants in the forum. Lastly, Dr. Amalina herself is an open-minded person, as one is willing to learn and understand before judging or having impressions on certain issue or person. For example, Dr. Amalina herself recently argued with a person on social media Twitter about being skeptical on the COVID-19 vaccine. However, she did not dismiss the person's opinion at all, as it is normal to have trust issues on the vaccine having certain percentages on death. In the end, she suggested to the person to look at the data as we go along and finally make a decision whether to have the vaccine or not. Indeed, Dr. Amalina Bakri is an intellectual. I think that is all from me talking about Dr. Amalina Bakri. Now I will pass to Khairiyah for her explanation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Khairiyah binti Mohd Yazid, and the individual that I'm going to talk about today is Anthony Tan. Anthony Tan is the chief executive and co-founder of the ride-hailing application and organization, Grab. He was born in 1989 in Malaysia and received his education in University of Chicago and Harvard Business School. The first characteristic that I'm going to talk about is intellectual courage. It can be defined as the consciousness and need to fairly address ideas, viewpoints, and belief, even though sometimes some people might have strong negative emotions towards this issue or certain issue and not having a serious thought about it. For example, Anthony Tan has created Grab Protect to ensure the safety of the customers. When a customer accepted the terms and conditions given by Grab, the Grab rider and driver can choose to reject them if they are not wearing masks. Because of this pandemic, wearing masks into a Grab service is a must. So, even though some people might oppose this idea and does not agree with him, he still have the consciousness of the need of this idea because he knows what's best for his customers. This shows that he's actually an intellectually courageous person, because even though people are having negative thought about his idea, he still use the idea because he is conscious about the actual need of this idea. The next characteristic is open-mindedness. It can be defined as the consciousness of treating ideas, beliefs, and viewpoints without being biased or prejudiced. For example, Anthony Tan has moved 149,000 of his workers in 2 months from being a Grab car and Grab bike driver to being a Grab food and Grab Mart driver. In this case, he is not being biased or prejudiced towards the driver because he knows what the country actually needs during this pandemic, which is they are in need of Grab food and Grab Mart driver instead of Grab car because people are staying at home and not going to work. He is being open-mindedness and not having the thought that Grab car driver and Grab bike rider should just stay as being a Grab car and Grab bike driver. Instead, he opens an opportunity for them to be a Grab Mart and Grab food rider also. This shows that Anthony Tan is a critical thinker. The last one is intellectual perseverance. It can be defined as the consciousness of need to use intellectual insight and to adhere to the rational principle despite the irrational opposition of other parties. For example, he created a complete cashless service which was once he thought a novelty and now has become a reality. By using his intellectual insight, he grabbed the opportunity in this pandemic to make his dream come true, which is having a complete cashless service. Despite the struggle and difficulties of making this thing happen, he kept being rational and finally able to make the complete cashless service reality. This shows that he is still being rational despite the struggle that he has to face in achieving his dream. It shows that he is actually an intellectually preserved individual. That is all from me. I move the next presentation to Farah Najihah. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Najihah binti Nasir and I am from LG2402D. The person that I think possess critical thinker characteristics is Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai is a Pakistani activist who bravely spoke up publicly against the prohibition on the education of girls that was imposed by the Pakistani Taliban, or which was known as TTP, when she was a teenager. She gained global attention after surviving an assassination at the age of 15. I think Malala Yousafzai possesses critical characteristics which are intellectual courage, open-mindedness, and intellectual perseverance. Firstly, I will talk about intellectual courage. Intellectual courage can be defined as being aware of the need to talk about certain ideas or beliefs, even though some people might receive negative emotions about the issue and do not give a serious view about it. I think Malala Yousafzai has these characteristics because she bravely speaks out about her viewpoints that all children should receive the same quality education and fighting about equal rights for women. In 2018, Yousafzai was taken to a local press club in Peshawar by her father to protest the school closings. And she gave her first speech, which is entitled "How Dare the Taliban Take Away My Basic Rights to Education," and it was spread throughout Pakistan. With her speech, she was approached by the BBC channel and they were interested to work with Yousafzai in writing about what it was like to live under the TTP rule. Yousafzai began writing regular entries for BBC Urdu about her daily life, and through the beginning of March, she already wrote 35 entries that were also translated to English. She also made her appearance on the television and was interviewed by Pakistani journalist and talk show host Hamid Mir on the Pakistan current event show, which is Capital Talk. Next is open-mindedness. Open-mindedness can be defined as having consciousness of the need to treat all ideas and opinions the same without being biased and prejudiced. For example, Yousafzai has been an activist as early in the age of 11. She determined to fight for the right of every children in Pakistan to receive equally quality education as they do for boys. In this case, Yousafzai is not being biased just to request for the education only for girls. Instead, she wanted everyone to receive the same treatment as the country does not treating them equally. And the country also decided to shut down all girls' schools, banning women from any active role in the society and also carry out suicide bombs. Yousafzai thinks this is not fair, and she is being open-minded to speak out for her request for all the children to receive the same education and the same treatment as what others do. Lastly is intellectual perseverance. Intellectual perseverance can be defined as disposition to overcome obstacles so as to continue to perform intellectual actions in pursuit of one intellectual goals. After all the obstacles like fled away as refugees, and she was also being shot on the left side of the head, Malala Yousafzai was still determined to get the world's attention about the prohibition on the education of girls that was imposed by the Pakistani Taliban. In her speech, she was once said, "I had two options. One was to remain silent and to be killed, and the second was to speak up and then be killed. I chose the second one. I decided to speak up." This shows that Malala Yousafzai has the characteristic of intellectual perseverance. She is strongly and bravely continue to speak up her opinions and her viewpoints because she also thinks that she has the right to say that, and she also have the qualification that strongly can make people believe that what she said is true and to accept her opinions. Even until now, she is still continuing her activism by investing in developing country educators and activists through Malala Fund. That is all from me. I move the next presentation to Farihah Ilyana. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Farihah ilyana binti Darus, and the individual that I have chosen is Valerie Legasov. Valery Legasov was born on the 1st of September 1936 in Tula, Russia. He was a Soviet chemist, mostly remembered for his work as the chief of commission investigating the Chernobyl disaster that happened in 1986. Legasov died at the age of 51 in 1988. The three critical thinking characteristics that Valery Legasov possessed are intellectual perseverance, intellectual courage, and intellectual honesty. Intellectual perseverance means to overcome any difficulties so as to continue to perform intellectual actions in order to fulfill one's intellectual objectives. Several years before the Chernobyl disaster, at a meeting of the physics section at the USSR Academy of Sciences, Valery Legasov had stressed the importance of a new security methodology for preventing large catastrophes. He pointed out the problems of the RBMK-1000 reactors and the risk of operating them. He also offered to secure them with a protective shield, a proposal that was later denied by his own colleagues. Even before the Chernobyl disaster, Legasov was known to stress the need for new security and safety methods to prevent large nuclear catastrophes. Intellectual courage is shown when we put ourselves in situations that could lead to potential loss or harm in the context of learning or pursuit of truth. After the reactor exploded, Valery Legasov would come over to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant about 6 times a day. Although it was only allowed to spend a minimum of 2 weeks at the site, he spent 4 months. As a result, he showed symptoms of radiation sickness such as dry cough, headaches, nuclear tan, and hair loss. He had a weakened immune system. However, he went back to Chernobyl regardless, knowing very well he was exposing himself to a large amount of radiation that would affect his life. But he stayed and documented the consequences of the disaster to later be presented at a special meeting in Vienna. Intellectual honesty means to always seek out the truth regardless of whether or not it agrees with your own personal beliefs. A few months after the terrible accident, at a special meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna, Valery Legasov presented a detailed account of the accident to some hundreds of experts, revealing its astounding causes and the truly tragic consequences. His report contrasted greatly with the narrative of the Soviet government, who had tried to downplay the seriousness of the disaster to the rest of the world. Consequently, Legasov's career would be destroyed, and he would later be harassed by his own colleagues and the government. He knew the consequences of his actions, of him going against the government, but he didn't hesitate to let the truth be known to the world and to let them know of the lies that the Soviet Union was trying to cover up. Thank you. That is all from us.